Hi, welcome to Cubs and Culture. A quick baseball update. The Cubs on February 28th announced their starting rotation. It's going to go Lester, Hendricks, Darvish, Quintana, and then Chatwood, which is more or less what you would expecting. I'm really glad that Hendricks gets to go second, as he's been actually one of the best pitchers on the Cubs for a while. I kind of wish he got the little small honor of being the opening day starter, but whatever. The Jose Quintana. Now, the thing about rotations, especially when you're talking about Joe Madden, is you would think you want to have your best, second best, third best, fourth best, fifth best. That's not actually how it works for Joe Madden, because honestly, if you're doing it in that order, Quintana should be in front of Darvish, probably based off of the projections. The thing is, Madden likes to split up his lefties, and then also he likes putting actually one of his best pitchers fourth because it makes sweeps less likely to happen. Okay, so that. With that being said, Lester went yesterday, threw like 30 pitches. He looked really good, looked like classic Lester, so hopefully he has a better season this year. Turning now to my standard fair use disclaimer, I'm going to be showing extensive clips from The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth. I am getting these from DVDs that I own, and I'm providing criticism and commentary. I do not monetize my channel. I recommend that people go and buy these films from whatever source you wish. They're both on Criterion Collection. So there's that. This is fair use of copyrights. Anyway, so we're gonna start with Devil's Backbone. I'm gonna show several scenes with Yanko, who's the villain, the proto-fascist in the story, and his main drive is to get gold because he's trying to basically buy a farm and get away from the civil war with his girlfriend. So his motivation is to get the gold. Okay, so this first scene I'm going to show you is in the early part of the movie. Yanko is the guy in the forefront, the physically attractive guy. He's now on the left. This scene is establishing sort of his main drive of him wanting to get away with his girlfriend, who's her, Conquicha is her name. And then also, it sort of gets into his backstory of him actually. This isn't the orphanage. He actually was an orphan who was abandoned by his family. And if you look at him, and this is why in the last video I talked about the stab in the back, this not having parents or being without parents, without that him being an orphan, is sort of the main way in which he's sort of damaged and afraid. So he feels like his family has betrayed him, and then this orphanage he wants to destroy. And he feels like it's like he's been stabbed in the back by his family, his connection. Now the other sort of thing that's just setting up the other sort of clips is the matron of the place is in a romantic relationship with the doctor, but the doctor is impotent, and so she's having a sexual relationship with him. Which of course connects to his virility. And then the other thing is, because he's supposed to be the proto-fascist in this movie as the villain, he's the only character who is sort of physically mature and whole. So all the kids are immature physically, the doctor's impotent, the matron or the madame has missing a leg, etc. The other thing is, this is a good use of the bomb. The bomb is always brought in to make reference to sort of attitudes or prepositions of the characters causing the war. So this desire of his to seek revenge on the place because he feels it stabbed him in the back. As soon as he sort of mentions that, you'll see in a second, it cuts to the bomb. That's the bomb right there in the forefront, so it's sort of overshadowing him. Okay, so this scene is the kids are playing down in this pit, which is supposed to be a Roman pit, and then Seti is a kid that the Yanko killed at the beginning of the story, though you don't find out to two-thirds. I'm showing you this because it's specifically one of the places in which Yanko shows a sort of authoritarian disposition, or sort of a cruelty towards the kids in terms of him being hyper protective of sort of his space or past, because they're just kids playing in here. And he immediately, he has this act of cruelty where he cuts Carl's, as the main character, cuts Carl's, his fave. And the scene is all about him, them trying to, him having to protect his own or protect his secret, because since he's in that pit, the kid, not the ghost, the actual body. So there's that. That's why I showed this. And then also it sort of has the male toxic masculinity of the box art of the system, of the way in which boys and men relate to each other, is sort of in this domination, submission, hierarchy way, which is sort of, again, it's not fascism, it leads to fascism. Okay, so this scene is towards the end of the movie, and Yanko is going to come here. There he is. And what it is the Spanish War isn't going well outside the orphanage, so they have to leave. And so he's coming here because he really wants the gold. And this is another way in which you kind of get the stab in the back, because he feels betrayed here, somewhat justifiably, by the madame, or the matron of the orphanage, because he is in a sexual relationship with her. But the main reason why I'm showing it in a moment is, well, one, it's another way in which he's just sort of pointlessly cruel towards him, in a way in which in a moment he'll make a reference to the doctor being impotent, and it's like twisting of the knife of it. But so there's that. But the specific thing why I'm showing it is this line right here. Not this line. This little moment between him and the matron of the orphanage, where she says he's one of the saddest orphans. Specifically, the line right here, "Our prince without a kingdom." Again, he's not a so that is one of the ways in which it deeply connects to Pan's Labyrinth in Shape of Water, because it's specifically about there's the reference to the impotence, it connects to fairy tale, because he is a prince without a kingdom, like Elsa's a princess without a voice, or how Ophelia is the princess who is lost, etc. So of the three villains in these three films, this one's actually treated the most sympathetically, because he sort of has his childhood trauma. Okay, so this scene is after the one you just seen. They come back and attack, and he blows up the safe, and that injures everyone, kills the matron. So Conquita is going to town trying to find help, basically. Okay, so it's this scene. Everything else in this movie, even like him killing Senti, was mostly actually more of an accident. It is right here. This is the moment in which he becomes fully a sort of proto fascist, where it's might makes right, and then also because he's eventually going to kill her. But it's again another example of the way in which men, the boxcars of masculinity or toxic masculinity, can get perverted into, so he has to kill her as sort of an honor thing, but she's disrespecting him, not being his authority, which is intolerable for him. Okay, but it's this moment where he becomes fully a proto-fascist, where he has the cleansing and the restoration of it. And then the other thing is, and I'll show the other clips eventually, with the other two films, this notion of a woman standing up to a fascist by, in this case, calling him an animal and sort of accepting her fate. This is actually repeated in the other two films, because it's a rhyming structure, which is really kind of cool. Okay, so this is the last bit I want to show you. Okay, so eventually they come back, the doctor's dead, blah, 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 and the kids are in a position to fight him. He's found the gold, etc. And I specifically want to show just a little bit of this, and it's all about the way in which he's killed. It's very much like Piggy in from Lord of the Flies, but the thing is, it's very personal, and in some ways it's the same. Like, it's kind of darkly humorous because it's him getting his comeuppance because he's utterly outsmarted by kids with sticks. Because he just gets flanked there because he's too dumb to look to his right or whatever. Okay, so that's going to be it for The Devil's Backbone. Now, the one thing about The Devil's Backbone in relationship to Pan's Labyrinth is the timing of it. It's in Pan's Labyrinth is actually after the Civil War has been basically concluded. There's still token resistance, but the thing is, Devil's Backbone is right before, right in the midst of, and so that's why he's sort of a proto-fascist, because it's prior to the formation of the dictatorship, which Pan's Labyrinth is after, so that's why that character is a full-fledged fascist. Okay, turning to Pan's Labyrinth, before I give sort of a review over the trailer, let me just quickly clear up 2 points of interpretation. The first one is I interpret the magic in this movie as real, that like the Fawn and the Pale Man, etc., are actual real characters because of basically because there's this one shot in the movie towards the end where it's a subjective point of view shot from the captain's point of view, and the Fawn seems to disappear, like he's not in shot. And so a lot of people say, oh, then therefore the fairy tale aspects are in Ophelia's head. Well, actual fact, I think it's that shot proves that it's just that the captain can't see it because of him being a fascist. So the reasons to think the magic are real is all objective shots have them in the frame. Guillermo del Toro always has fantastical elements, and he doesn't really do psychology. Like logistic issues of like how does she get out at the end if the chalk isn't actually magical, etc. And there's just one shot which indicates that it's in her head, which is that shot from the subjective point of view from the character you're supposed to dislike. So that's why I interpret the magic as real. Okay, so the other point of interpretation is you're looking at a maze here. And I know this might be a little bit persnickety, but mazes are not the same as labyrinths. A maze has a multi-paths and it's branching, where there's multiple dead ends and multiple, you can even have, this one doesn't have it, but you can have multiple exits and entrances, so it's a multi-cursal pattern. Whereas a labyrinth, which you'll see here in a second, there's a labyrinth, is actually unicursal, so there's only one entrance and one exit, and there's only one path to follow, basically. And now the reason why I'm picking on this is the name of the movie is Pan's Labyrinth. And what it used to be is, in the Middle Ages, this used to be a meditation technique where on the floor you would actually just walk a labyrinth pattern to think. And because there's only one path, there's only one way of going. So it's not, so it's supposed to bring up sort of the connotations of a maze, and sort of the Minotaur story of being confusing, etc. But it's also, Pan is, as part of interpretation, the Fawn is directing you through one path. So it's not quite, so it's supposed to bring up the concept of a maze, but it's also just there being one path. Okay, so let me look at the trailer. Okay, so Pan's Labyrinth is Del Toro's second best film behind Shape of Water. It's absolutely gorgeous. It was nominated for 6 Oscars, makeup, art direction, cinematography, which it won. Then original screenplay, foreign language film, and then score, I believe. I have no idea how it didn't win foreign language when it was nominated for 5 other categories. Anyway, stupid German movie. It's 2 stories running in parallel, where the first story, and the one I'm going to spend most of my time talking about now, is Ophelia, who's this little girl, 11, 12-ish, who's actually the lost princess of the underground kingdom, and she's going through these trials where she has to prove her essence has been corrupted by living on Earth. So that's one story. Then also contrasted with the captain story, Captain Vidal, that guy right there. He's drinking now. Who was a fascist captain in 1944, trying to hunt down and exterminate the last sort of token resistance of the Republicans or Loyalists during the from the Spanish Civil War. It's an absolutely gorgeous film. Now, the thing is, whereas Devil's Backbone was sort of demonstrated as the stab in the back because Veronica felt betrayed and everything like that, this one's much more about the great man restoring order and cleansing society, because that's what the captain's trying to do. That's sort of what his main motivation is. And so the movie is specifically powerfully anti-fascist because the three trials that Ophelia goes through, she actually, in a sense, she passes the first one, but the second and third one, she actually fails because she disobeys authority. Or she disobeys authority, and that doesn't have her fail. However you want to put the point. And so the first trial, it's her going underneath this tree, and then she kind of gets her mother and her and the captain upset because she ruins this dress, which is a reference to sort of a darker version of Dorothy Gale from Wizard of Oz. That the second trial is the Pale Man sequence where she's told not to eat food, and she eats 2 measly grapes and a whole bunch of other things. And then the third trial, and spoilers, is she brings her brother to the fawn, and the fawn says, we got to take just a small drop of blood. And it's almost like Peter denying Christ 3 times. She says no, and he's like, are you sure you can't go back? And she's like, yes. Still, you announced your birthday? Yes. And so it's because of that, this sort of disobedience of authority against authority is rewarded, because she ends up at the end, again, because I interpret the magical elements as real, as coming sort of into heaven. So there's that. And then the other thing I like about the Ophelia story is really how Pan, or the fawn, is betrayed, because he actually ages backwards in the film, because he ends up being really old and decrepit the first time you see him, and he's the most sort of pretty at the end when he's offering her to do this horrible thing about so this is him at the beginning, and he's old and decrepit, the thing, but at the end he's actually has red hair. So it's very much like putting the point that when he's most physically attractive is when he's making the most sort of horrible statement. And then the other sort of thing is, because it's a Labyrinth, you can see him Pan as the character, and I think this is why it's a reference to Pan, because Pan was a trickster god and god of fertility, of pushing Ophelia to this moment where she's faced with this choice of hurting her brother, because her mother's pregnant, and her brother ends up the mother ends up dying in birth, during birth and everything like that. Pan is pushing her along this one path where she's punished for disobeying, and then at the end she's given this horrible choice, and she only gets happiness, or nirvana, how you want to put the point, because she disobeys, and that's profoundly anti-fascist. For Ophelia's story, in that it's about that disobedience is what you should be doing. Okay, turning to clips now. The first clip is going to be sort of the captain's introduction, and you'll notice that he's looking at this watch, and this watch is sort of a central metaphor for this character. Note that he was annoyed that they were only 15 minutes late. He's constantly shown looking at it. His room is sort of like the inside of a watch, etc. And of course, that immediately brings to mind law and order, or punctuality, sort of orderliness. But the other thing is, you might notice that the watch is smashed, and that's because of, note how he felt, that's his wife, Ophelia's mother, note how he felt her stomach first, then telling welcome, because this is sort of his attitude towards her. He only cares about her because she's currently bearing him a son, and he wants to carry on the family legacy, because his father was a general, and that's what the watch is about. His father smashed it, so real men know who has the honor of dying in battle, and that's sort of the drive, is for him to be in battle. Then the other thing here, while I'm showing you this particular clip, is this little moment right there, where such a basic gesture of offering the wrong hand offends him so much that he makes it a moment. Again, looking at the watch. So this is further on in the party sequence, and excuse me. This scene is being shown for a couple of things. The first thing is it sort of gets into the other aspects of his character, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the other thing is, there's going to be a couple of shots here where the captain is sitting at the end of a table with a fire roaring behind him and a feast in front of him. And this image is actually repeated, and I'll show you the repeat. But the other thing is, the captain, the reason why he has in this party is there's going to be these ration cards, and it's all about his sense of not only law and order, but sort of the way in which domination. So like here they're saying, we're not sure if this is going to be enough food for everyone, but yeah, here's the image. Guy, fire, at the end of a table, feast, etc. Okay, so that's the doctor. He's actually helping the guerrilla fighters. And then Mercedes, that's Mercedes. She's also helping the guerrilla fighters. So this scene is all about how he sort of revels in his position of authority. And the other thing is, there's this notion of choice in this film. And so, like, who do you disobey and who do you obey? What sort of thing? Where do you sort of tie your sacred honor? And here's the thing. If you just read what he said, he says you're trying to make a cleansing of Spain, vermin, very standard fascism of needing to restore honor. This is the great man myth. But the thing is, going back specifically to Pan's Labyrinth, the choice aspect of it is that the captain himself is an evil man because he chooses to be evil. So the freedom of the will is sort of a ongoing theme of this. Now, the other thing is, the reason why I continue to show the scene is this woman, her husband was a tailor and he died, and she just told a little story, and he seems incredibly sort of disgusted with her for telling this kind of a cute story, I guess. And then he apologizes for her. So it's sort of this whole thing that was improper for her to tell this little story, even though she was asked, and he's such a dick about it, etc. And he doesn't seem to, so that's another way in which the captain sort of devalues or acts very sexist or patriarchal towards his wife. Excuse me. Then this is the little story here about his father. So there's something with this character that where the sort of the ghost of the past of living up to the father, restoring the glory of the yesteryear, living up to the glory of yesteryear is sort of his main motivation. So he's entirely, again, going back to like Devil's Backbone, that sort of about that guy is a proto-fascist. So he's kind of focused on the stab in the back theory. This guy is the great man type. So he's a full-fledged fascist. Okay. Monster at the end of the table with a feast in front of him. This is the repeat image I was talking about. Okay, this is the Pale Man. It's one of the monsters in the film. It's not subtle, though very people seem to miss it. Okay, this scene here is a guerrilla fighter has been captured and tortured, and this doctor who's always been working with them has been euthanizes him. And here's the little confrontation with the captain, where he doesn't understand why the doctor didn't obey. And I actually think this scene might be why I think Shape of Water is slightly better. It's a little bit too on point. Maybe it's a translation thing, but this whole thing is like he's just built for people to obey him. And so he doesn't really understand the notion of you obey for the sake of obeying, that it's about the authority, that I'm the one in authority, so no matter what I say goes. So it's unthinking, unreflective sort of thing. Now, the other thing about this is the woman, the wife, Carmen, who's Ophelia's mother, is sick because the pregnancy is not going well. That guy's the only doctor around. He just killed him by choice, and then it sort of fucks him over and Ophelia, because the mother is now sick and she'll actually, spoiler, die in childbirth. And so if he should have, 30 seconds, right, to his own choice, he's sort of hoisted by his own petard here. Okay, so this scene is, and the reason why I'm showing it is Mercedes, who's been working with them the entire time, is it also gets at sort of the last bit, the last sort of bit of the great man thing, which is about pride and also overlooking people who really don't matter, minorities, women, people with disabilities, etc., because she was the main housekeeper for so long. So you have to, like, this line, she's just a woman, etc. But she's able to she was able to work with the guerrilla fighters for so long because she was basically ignored, because he doesn't care about people like that, because he's the great man and he's trying to restore and cleanse the nation. Again, obviously I'm anti-fascist. I'm not trying to promote fascism here. I'm just explaining fascism. Okay, so the other reason why I'm showing this is, again, going back to the stab in the back theory, and I'm sure this is entirely intentional. One of the best moments in the film, and it's coming up in about 20 seconds, is again, she's a minority working within the household who literally right here stabs the nation in the back, because he sort of stands for the Spanish fascist order. And here's the thing, in the context of the movie, this is absolutely a great thing. So it's actually taking sort of the trope of fascism and turning it on its head, and it's just a great moment. Now, the last thing I want to show you, and it's going to come up here in a second, is this magic thing. So here's our objective shots. They're not point of view shots because, well, that's a point of view shot, but the first two I showed you, Ophelia and the Faun, are in the same shot, so it's an objective shot, and that's almost always the case. The only time it gets into, like, this is an objective shot. The only time it gets subjective is when it's in the normal sort of scene construction between them. Then here is he looks and he's drugged and he kind of crosses his eyes and then he doesn't see them. So the point is he doesn't see it. Not that they're not there, because the captain is so closed off to humanity that the greater realm of fairy tale or magic is utterly unrecognizable to him. It's not the other way of it's in Ophelia's head. It's far easier to read it that it's not in his head. Okay, so that's going to be it for Cubs and Culture today. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it's a little bit longer than my other episodes, but a lot to say about Pan's Labyrinth. So I hope to see you guys again soon. I'll eventually do an actual review of Shape of Water in a couple of weeks, and then I'll have an actual intensive baseball one in a couple of days from now. So Cubs and Culture out for March 1st, 3-1 Cleveland Indians Day. See ya.